This conference will now be recorded.
There was also just a LR tag meeting that's bouncing right back to this one. So I know he was on that one, so we may have to kind of.
It's done now.
Oh, okay. Oh, there he is. Okay, I see Brian on, so we'll go ahead with that. Jeremy Bryant. I see Jeremy, so we'll just go ahead. Todd Carroll. Sarah Carter. Mariel Fowler.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, I know you're here. Catherine Gamble. Kevin Jones. Andrew Lagala. Lee Newland.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ann Nygaard.
Here.
Thank you. Johnny Rourke. Gary Schanneberger. Dan Sonenklar.
Here.
Thank you. Russell Thurston. Sharon Williams. Rick, I know you're on here. And Mary Zirkle.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve today, September and November. If there are no comments or corrections, I would entertain a motion for those.
So moved. Thank you guys for making those additions.
All right, is there a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Next, Ada, you would like to talk to us about My Sidewalk?
Yes. So just a few updates on the projects we've been working on. So the My Sidewalk platform has launched on December 1st. Thank you for those who have sent comments. We're still working through some of them. So if you don't see your changes reflected yet, we're working on it. We actually just got a lot of really good feedback, and it's taken us a little bit longer to get through them than we anticipated, but we will continue to take comments on a rolling basis. This is, a dynamic live platform. So, as we go along and add more information and the data updates, we'll take more comments, which I think is a good thing to do. So if you're on there and notice anything, please, feel free to let us know at any time. And, we'll make those changes when possible. So another thing to talk about is Mallory and I have been working on the TPO website. I think I mentioned last month that we were about to transition from cvmpo.org to cvtpo.org. And we've made that change, and we've gone through and updated content, added more plans where possible. If there's something on the website that you notice is missing, it's because we're still working through adding some of that information and updating it. So we're trying to make the information as up to date as possible, but also make it visually engaging and appealing. So we will let you know when those changes are made. But in the meantime, if you see anything that you think should require some clarification, or you need a document that's not on there right now, please just, let me know, and I'll either make it available to you or put it on the website, or either one. I would also just mention about the My Sidewalk thing. We have done a social media post about it, but if your agency would be willing or able to share that post or make your own post about it, that would be greatly appreciated. We really do want to get folks out there to see, what we've done and make it engaging to them and get people more involved in regional planning. So that would be helpful. a few updates on just the projects that we're working on right now. Right now, we're wrapping up the Town of Bedford intersection study, which is Longwood and Independence. And interestingly, something interesting about that project is that we were doing a survey after the public meeting, and it got circulated in a Town of Bedford Facebook group. And after it went through the Facebook group, we have had over 500 responses to that survey, which is really incredible for the type of project that it is and the size of the town. So very proud of that. Just really interesting how these groups can really take off. In addition to that project, we've been working on, with VDOT and EPR, a corridor study for Village Highway in Rustburg. We're working on getting in touch with some business owners about that. And there is a survey live for that right now. So if you know anyone or you commute through Rustburg, we would, encourage you to take that survey or spread it if that is appropriate for your agency. Moving ahead to thinking about new projects for next year. So this is around the time we want you to start thinking about what the PDC or the TPO can be helping with next year. We really want to focus on expanding our services. So maybe if it is a type of project that we haven't helped with in the past, whether that's multimodal planning or neighborhood plans, I think we really want to kind of expand what we're able to help with, and even projects that maybe you don't have such a refined scope for, we'd be really grateful to be able to sit down and talk to you about, ways to make those projects happen and how we can be of assistance. So that being said, transportation alternatives is next coming year, so be thinking about that. There was an allocation for the town of Alta Vista's Main Street sidewalk expansion. So I don't know if that's new news or old news, but either way, it's news. So yeah, so just be thinking about projects that you'd like us to work on. And we will probably, if you have an idea in mind, feel free to send it over. If you need a little bit more time to think about it, go ahead. But we definitely have been talking to some localities about projects we'll take on for next year already. So if you have something in mind, speak sooner rather than later so that we can get everyone in and squared away here. And, that being said, also with the My Sidewalk rollout, we have the opportunity to create reports based on data that's available through the platform. So I know that we showed you a little presentation of that in the past, but just want to remind you that those reports will be available, and we're happy to walk you through what we're able to do with that technology. And I think that's it on that one. If anyone has any questions about that, then let me know. If not, I think I'm also next on the agenda. I have
let me.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I add something? So good point as far as bringing up future projects and everything to think of. But one thing I want to add in is, as you think through your potential projects, you absolutely need to look at the tie-in to VTrans, the midterms needs, because there are going to be some, and I didn't see the CTB this past week, but they are looking to try to limit where our planning dollars go. And this could roll over into the NPO and PDC side as well. VTrans midterm needs are broken out into 4 tiers. They are trying to, the initial discussion is looking to tie all planning dollars studies to go to tier 1. Well, in our district, we have pretty much studied all of our tier 1 needs. And so we need some flexibility in looking at, the tier 2 through 4 aspects. So the reason I bring this up is because planning dollars are going to be limited, we need to ensure that the projects that you're thinking of not only meet your long-range planning efforts and everything, but we need to ensure that they tie into those midterm needs. Because if it's not identified on that map, it's going to be a harder sell in order to get those planning dollars there. So just food for thought.
Right, and yeah, that's a great point. We also, as this VTrans midterm needs prioritization policy guide has gone out. We did send a letter on behalf of the PDC explaining that we do think that's of concern and that we don't want to be limited, especially for the rural localities.
And anybody else here, Ada?
And I believe your microphone has gone out.
Ellen, we're getting some comments from Ada in the chat that maybe you can talk about GAP.
GAP or the Virginia Walkability Action Institute? Ada, I'm not sure. I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and do my presentation. Ada, you'll share the screen with me, and then we'll talk about, we'll kind of go through our journey with the City of Lynchburg, Centra Health District, and Centra on a project that we're proud of. So y'all can see my screen?
Yes, got it up.
All right, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna talk about a project for advancing safe and equitable pedestrian access in the City of Lynchburg, and really point out that this started out, sorry. And that a project that was a journey. The Virginia Department of Health, this is the second year that they had something called the Virginia Walkability Action Institute through a grant they received through CDC to advance pedestrian movement, and that tie to pedestrian and public health and determinants of health, physical determinants of health. And it was a journey. Just to let you know, we heard about it on the 28th. I contacted Department of Health. We talked to Ann Cundy, who had a successful project at Central Shenandoah. We talked to Ann Nygaard. I think, Ann, it was on the 5th of February. Then we moved it through the city and had an application submitted to the Virginia Department of Health on the 28th of February. So I'm just going to talk about this project and take you through our journey. Whoops, sorry. Is my slide not advancing? Hold on. I'm sorry, my slides won't advance. Well, there we go. There you go.
Now, yep, we're good
Yeah.
now.
All right, great. So this is our project team. Lindsay Kaywood, just the Virginia Department of Health projects have to be submitted by your health department. So it's a partnership. And in that month of developing a project, we had Michael Elliott, the Senior Vice President of Centra. We had Bo Wright, the City Council member, Ann Nygaard, as you all know, planner. Lisa Taylor is the Planning and Engagement Director for the Health Equity and Community Access Network. Reed Wodeka was a partner at the time, was a deputy city manager was his role. And then Austin Brooks, she is of the Virginia Cooperative Extension. She sort of came in on the back end of the project. Myself, and down at the bottom, you can see we started out the project with Mohammed Zayed, who had been the city's transportation engineer, and unfortunately was not able to participate in the project. He had some medical issues, and so Austin came about. The project, the Virginia Department of Health's Walkability Action Institute. It was a technical assistance project. You received $12,500. Needless to say, like so many other projects, we had a lot of changes in the process. Obviously, COVID came about. We never had a team meeting where we were all able to meet at one time. We had virtual meetings. We met on Sundays. We had 2 meetings on my back patio. One of those, it must have been 100 degrees, and can vouch for that. It was stifling hot. But anyway, so that was our project team, and our goal was to, I am so sorry, it won't advance. Here we go. Okay, so we started out like, what did we know? We wanted to advance walkability within the city. We knew that there was income disparity. We knew that there were cities in poverty, families in poverty. We knew what we had in infrastructure, miles of sidewalk, miles of street, percentage, our trails. There was also the city, through well, not the city, Centra had led their community health needs assessment that Centra has to do every 4 years as a requirement. And it included a whole host of partnerships that became the Partnership for Healthy Communities. And they did a survey, and they had the 10 most articulated needs from the population. And you can see their access to affordable health care, access to healthy food, transportation access. And there were the other issues of overweight, obesity, and diabetes. And so we really wanted to ask ourselves, how can we consider the decision making in transportation, specifically with pedestrian access, and to consider the health determinant factors? That was really a priority. And we also wanted to pursue a tactical urbanism project. And those that know, tactical urbanism is that temporary, low-cost way to help evaluate movement in pedestrian networks to see if, are your assumptions right without spending a lot of money. So we had a sort of where can we begin, and what does that look like? And how do we sort of consider what factors would we look at? And so the team identified 10 spots within the city that we thought would be good projects based on some characteristics that we were looking at. And those, you can see those there. We really wanted to look at physical location and movement factors. We wanted to have a project where we really thought we could genuinely make a difference in the movement of the projects. So we were looking at those physical location and movement factors. What was the density of the community? We wanted to know what the social determinant factors, that became really important to us. Will the project really benefit projects relying on public transit? Would you have impact on minority populations, individuals of lower income? And we sort of added one that was a project that would forge a cultural intergenerational relationship, because we didn't want to say we were going to do a project that was all about low income. We really wanted to see if we could get good community input in this idea of this tactical urbanism project, where we would bring the public out to tell us the things that they wanted to see. And we looked at data of each of the locations, and this is credit to Lindsay Kaywood from the Department of Health. She really pulled the detailed information on every one of the 10 locations that we looked at. We quickly threw 3 out, then we narrowed it down to 5, and then we were looking at all these, and then we found the spot that we thought was it met all our criteria, and we really thought this was the way to go. And that was Charlotte Street and Rivermont Avenue. And you can see there on the right what we kind of came up with, a rendering to do a tactical urbanism. And we came up with this, and let me back up a little bit. I apologize. The Virginia Walkability Action Institute went to each of the 5 other regions of the state that were awarded a Walkability Action Institute grant. That was Fairfax, Central Shenandoah, Portsmouth, and what are my other ones? Prince William, and us. So we were the 5. And they came down. It was a hot day. We were wearing our mask and we were walking around to come up with what we ultimately chose to be Charlotte Street and Rivermont Avenue. Again, these are the reasons why here. A gateway, it was visual on Rivermont. City's first bike lanes were there. There's a church and a daycare center. The Arc of Central Virginia, if you know this area, is just off to the right. Excuse me, the left. It's on the bus route. It was high on our social determinant factors. It had ethnic diversity, and it was connected to a pending project that you can see there, which was 1 block down, which was the city's PSAP project at Bedford and Rivermont Avenue. And what you have on the right is what we, and I say we, this is credit to Ann Nygaard who did this, was what we wanted to propose for a tactical urbanism project, to basically put in some temporary changes that you see there, where we would block out a way so they would have to take a tighter right turn. Well, what happened is Ann is just too good at her job, because this was presented to the city of Lynchburg and they said, you know what, that's a good idea, we'll implement it. So
Permanently with concrete, not just the temporary.
That's right. So again, credit to Ann and the city. So we had a problem. It was a good problem, which is we had to come up with a new project. And I want to then point out this project that's 1 block down from the Charlotte Street Rivermont. And this is the city's PSAP project, the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan project, which, if you know, these were submitted in 2019, and it was the state's first round at this. They received 59 submittals in that first round. 25 were awarded for $8 million, and the city received one of those here at Rivermont and Bedford Avenue. And again, the reasons why: it's a busy vehicle, there were crash data, food zone, and we thought it was really important because it had those same social determinant factors. And so we realized it was an impact opportunity. Can we make sure that what's ultimately going to be designed there is going to really be the best thing? So we were very fortunate, and Ann, again, can talk far more intelligently than I can. We're able to have a professional really look at this intersection and provide some good suggestions on how there might be a way to really advance what the original concept drawing is for this intersection, and we'll be continuing those conversations. You got anything to add there, Ann, or I can go on?
No, keep on going.
All right. Yep. And then this was the second, our objective, what was ultimately our first objective for the project, and that was to develop an equitable evaluation decision tool that used data, but it also considered the human factors that really were those health determinant those health determinant indicators that you heard about. And then through the Virginia Walkability Action Institute, which included virtual sessions that were facilitated by pedestrian leaders across the country, and they were wonderful sessions. And we learned that there are specific factors that have much greater impact on pedestrian safety. It's not just car numbers and car speed. It really is those factors on persons of color have a 60% higher rate of pedestrian participating pedestrian crash, low income, and certain factors. So we wanted to develop this criteria that you see here, and I know that's a lot, so I'll sort of go through it this way. but we're looking at data. So the first factors, we had safety, and obviously what you would expect: traffic count, road classification, speed limit, and accident history. And what was interesting, at first we had a weight factor of 2, meaning that should be one of the most important things. But when going through this process, and we'll talk more about this, what VDOT even learned through their PSAP evaluation project, that there are other factors that really impact the safety and the safety for pedestrians. So we also look at demand. And I will tell you, what you see here are 6 factors in demand. At one time we had, I don't know, Ann, what, 11 factors? And what we realized is if we rated everything of value, we would ultimately be rating nothing of value. So we really decided to prioritize schools, trail access and park, neighborhood, hospital, and other publicly funded health centers. And you can see in the 3rd column there where it says manual and generate. It's because that is not a designated GIS existing data. It will have to be generated. But we talked to the city GIS department, and that's such a small factor that we can generate that. Voting centers, then you see soup kitchen, food pantry, and WIC. Again, that'll have to be manually generated. And then population density. Any questions at this point? And you can see we came up with this rating factor. And then equity and diversity. And this was what was new. Again, low income, moderate income, population of public transit element. And we had to kind of create, how are you going to make that determining factor? Because, again, you can almost rate everything at 2. So we have this percentage based on what the average is. Disability, and then we have down here, it's the new factor, which is the Virginia Health Opportunity Index. And again, I'll talk more about that as it relates to VDOT, some of their own rating factors. And then lastly, we had connectivity, GIS, obviously, to city projects. If there was a city project that was taking place and we could capitalize on that, then that's very important. Obviously, on a bus route, to have a bus shelter, and then connectivity to other sidewalks. If it was going to eliminate a gap, we saw that as really having value and, dollar added value. And now I want to just quickly talk about when we did our process. It was a very quick, the Virginia Walkability Action Institute process. Again, we were awarded. We had our first meeting, and it was in March, and then we had to develop our project action plan and to submit that to VDOT, pardon me, not VDOT, Virginia Department of Health, by the end of August. Well, we did not know that there was the partnership in VDOT with the Virginia Department of Health, and that they were updating their PSAP program to incorporate the Health Opportunity Index. And what we literally just came to learn in the last month was Virginia won an award for this, that between their 2018 PSAP evaluation and their 2020 that they put out, they had done an analysis and found that those health determinant factors were a very large factor in when they were looking at their PSAP data across the state, that it had a really high probability of factor of where there would be accident incidents for pedestrians. And so we were, we'll have to say we're a little proud of ourselves because we were unaware of this. But you can now, on the right side there, you'll see that is the portion of Lynchburg City's Health Opportunity Index that you can go and use. All of this will be provided to y'all in a little summary with the meeting minutes here. that you can see what your locality's health opportunity index is. And then you can see there that the new VDOT PSAP evaluation factors, obviously population, employment density, all those logical things that transportation, planning you would expect. But now it incorporated that health opportunity index factor. And so you guys will know that that is really going to be an element and an evaluation process that VDOT's going to use moving forward with their smart scale. And then Ann Nygaard created this slide, and it's really to show you how we want to use the Walkability Action Institute process, how we want to use the criteria as a decision-making tool, that you'll have the Lynchburg Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and they're receiving information that they're from citizens, from the data that we receive and city staff project, and we'll take that information and sort of use the criteria to evaluate some of those. Then the city, they can siphon off those small projects that they can do easily through their standard maintenance project, or can be incorporated with a project that's already being done along a corridor. But then look at the third process, those CIP projects, those larger dollar projects that will then ask to be incorporated once a year to go before city council and to say, hey, we've identified some of these projects. We've taken them through this very logical criteria process, and we'd like to move it within the decision-making process on how you can make some of these improvements moving forward. And then I am going to, and this was our action plan. Again, I'll include that with the meeting summary, where we had to submit this action plan that included, what are we going to do? What's the schedule to do these things? And what's our vision? And you can see there a timeline. We want to take this to city council. We had February of 2021 for consideration for adoption in a process, and see whether we meet that. And then I'm going to show you what is the new tactical urbanism project that's 12th and Monroe Street. And I am going to pass it over to Ann to let her talk about this.
And yeah,
I'm
Ada,
not
do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you presenter, but I'm assuming you can hear me now since,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm on my cell phone and computer, so I'm glad there's no like horrible feedback or whatever, but okay. I think you should be good now.
All right. Meeting screen moved. So yeah, so Kelly went through how we had one project selected for the Charlotte Street area at Rivermont, and we presented it to the city, I'm with the city obviously, but to Public Works to kind of talk about some of those details of, what would they be okay with having in the right of way, planters, bollards, that kind of thing, the different materials for tactical urbanism. And then they kind of said, well, why don't we just do it? And so that project is actually currently being designed in-house at the city, and hopefully will be implemented, within the next year. That would be the goal. So the team then had to find another intersection and or another site for a project, and quickly, frantically, we're looking all around because we had to have something selected before the end of August, and I think it was the beginning of August. And a big portion of this was also trying to get community engagement. And I think all of us know that community engagement is particularly tough right now due to COVID and meeting restrictions. And so this intersection, which is actually 12th Street and Monroe, kind of rose to the top because it's situated right next to Dunbar Middle School. So kind of a ready-made organization for us to interact with and get community input. This one also rose to the top because Monroe Street is actually like 30 feet wide, I believe, but for some reason at the intersection, it balloons up to 100 or almost 100, so more than 3 times the size of the street. And we couldn't figure out why. It's not where the school buses enter. The school buses exit this street actually, and nothing has risen to the top. It looks like from old aerials, it's just always been this way. So we, again, tried to do a quick concept of what could we do, and again discussed with the city, you know, what materials are okay. And so what we're going to do here is actually do temporary curbing to curve out this area and narrow the street down. It's a temporary curb with a bollard in it, and I've got that example here. It won't be yellow, it'll actually be white, so maybe not quite as UGLY. And so we'll curb all that out, and Public Works, that the material has already been delivered. Public Works is actually going to do the installation for us, which is really great. And then we're going to see, you know, what does this feel like now? What does the space feel like? Meanwhile, Dunbar Middle School students with their art class are working on a pop art section in that class over the winter. And so they're going to actually help us design what this mural is going to look like. So I don't think it'll be polka dots. That was just a placeholder, even though I do like polka dots. We're making sure to leave a gap for stormwater, and then we're trying to do an artful crosswalk too that I believe Public Works is going to be able to pull off for us. So that's actually, if I can zoom in, Dunbar feathers with kind of the Dunbar script, DUNBAR, in the stripes going across. So tying that into the place where this intersection is situated. I think that's it. Kelly, was there more I was supposed to go over?
Oh, no, that was it. And this is where Ann can, we just really want to point out that we, part of our process was to be able to talk about what a tactical urbanism project was, how it would work, how it would be executed, what are the pros and cons, what goes into the permitting process and the approval process and the public process. Now, obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of those factors we haven't been able to execute, as we all know, we've all heard, you know, because of COVID, because of this, because of that. But again, it's been a really good project. I would also say that the Virginia Walkability Action Institute program, again, while we were not able to participate in that project as it had been intended, which was supposed to be everyone was all 5 teams were going to get paid and or not get paid, but weren't going to have to pay to go to Richmond. It was going to be a 3-day training. Obviously that didn't happen, but the process of coming up with an evaluation process and a criteria to make pedestrian decisions for the city of Lynchburg, to incorporate those health determinant factors. I want to shout out to Brian, because when we talked to Brian about Rivermont and Charlotte Street, Ann had noted that she had, you know, wanted a transit stop there, and we were like, why wasn't there a transit stop there? And Brian was like, well, I don't know, one was taken out. And he said, you know what, we'll put one back in potentially. So just that the communication process, the evaluation process, has really been a learning experience. And again, I would really urge people to pay attention to VDOT's new PSAP process, and how they are including these health opportunity indexes in their decision making, and suggesting that communities do that as they're considering their pedestrian projects for HSIP and Smart Scale. And Rick might be able to talk more about that, or Dave, but that's all I have. And if there's any questions.
We'll say we're curbing this out. We're going to see how safe it really feels, and then determine whether we're going to, you know, be able to allow some of the students to paint the mural, or if we'll be looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in helping out, let us know. Adult volunteers. Kelly, we lost you. Kelly,
Seems like a recurring theme today. Yeah.
All right, Ada, was there something that you wanted to say before you got cut off?
Yeah, if we can just backtrack here a little bit, I'm gonna make myself the presenter again, though I don't have anything else to present. I was just wanting to respond to what Rick had said about the whole VTrans process, and I definitely agree that was a great point to bring up. One of the things that we've done as a PDC was, submitted comments based on that prioritization process to OIP about how we do feel like it's limiting to, what we're able to do. And the Virginia Association for MPOs has also submitted some comments that we were involved in. So I think we just kind of have to wait and see how limiting that is, but hopefully our comments will be considered and incorporated. Another thing I just wanted to talk about quickly, and I won't bog you down in the details of this because I know there's been a lot of information presented here already today, but there's a new program from OIP called GAP, which is Growth and Accessibility Planning Technical Assistance. And this comes to replace the old UDA Technical Assistance Program that they had. And, just a few details on that. The application cycle has just begun, and I think it wraps up around January 15th, somewhere in that time frame. There is more information on OIP's website if you're interested, but there's a couple of types of applications that you can present through this program. Some multimodal planning in UDAs and growth areas. You're able to evaluate and develop strategies for emerging planning issues, develop accessibility planning processes, and conduct multimodal planning outside of urban areas. So I know that's kind of a lot, and there are some limitations to who can apply for what types of funding. So to avoid getting you very bogged down in these details, I would highly recommend going to the VTrans website. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on the VTrans website. I think I've also sent it out via email, but if I haven't, I will. And just take the time to look that over and see if you think you have something in mind for that, and we would be happy to help, or you can submit it on your own terms. Other than that, as we get down to the matters from the committee here, I just really wanted to say thank you on behalf of the PDC, for all the work that we've done together this year as the year comes to an end. We hope you all have a very happy and healthy holiday. And I'll put it back to you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you. Are there any other matters from committee members? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor, say aye.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.